welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is the podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. Today, we have a Q&A episode, which was inspired by me finally getting to the bottom of my inbox. It's truly the best questions that you send that linger at the bottom of my email inbox for days because they're so good that I want to think about them and really give them the attention that they deserve. And then sometimes when I do, I realize that I have plenty of amazing questions, enough to fill up an entire episode. And so that brings us to our June Q&A today. Some of these may have been submitted during May, but that is okay. We are getting to them now. I guess we'll start with a little bit of a life update. So I am coming at you from the very beginning of June. As I record this, my kids still have a week of school, but by the time you hear this, they will be done. So a very transitional phase. I also have to say, I have been in a little bit of a lower mood lately. I know I've talked about on this podcast that I really struggle and have for years with hormonal mood swings. I know I just lost all of my male listeners, but it's just a true fact about me. And I didn't realize this till my late 30s, but it's been something I've dealt with in various levels off and on over the years. Doing a lot of intense long distance running seemed to really help with this, but since I have a cardiac issue that makes that a non-option, now I have to figure out other ways. And really the last couple of weeks have like 10 days or so have just been rough. I'm sure there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't know. It's just been a lesson in feeling really down and then doing things anyway. And I guess I will say that to some extent that strategy has worked. Like whether I felt like going to that social event or having that conversation or doing that work task, I've just gone ahead and kind of done it because it had to be done. And honestly, it wasn't going to be that much less pleasant not doing it, if that makes sense. So I don't know. Everyone's different. And obviously, this is not to say that if someone else is going through bad mood stuff, that they should just do it. That is not at all what I'm getting at. But that has just kind of been the reality of my last couple of weeks. And hopefully when I come at you in an episode or two, things will be better. I am actively looking at solutions for this. So I don't know how personal we'll get, but maybe I'll be coming at you from a slightly better place going forward. But that said, I still appreciate all of these amazing questions that you sent in. And I am very excited to share some of these planner piece submissions. I also would really like to record a mid-year Techo Kaigi. A Techo Kaigi is a Japanese term that means like a planner review. So people will actually do these Techo Kaigi meetups where they'll share all their planners, what they're using, what's not working, what is working. And sometimes they're held at cafes. They have kind of a cozy vibe to them. And I realized this would be a perfect format to do a mid-year YouTube video, especially because I personally, despite the mood stuff I mentioned previously, I've been in a pretty steady state of planner peace all of 2026 so far, which it's not really that often that I can say that in the month of June. So I feel like that is worthy of a video and a discussion and sharing some of the ways I'm using the tools that I'm so happy with. But we will start with a planner piece submission from Lauren, who sent me her kind of Techo Kaigi as her system is working for her right now. And I'm not going to share her personal details either, but let's just say that Lauren has been through the ringer over the past year and a half, just stuff going on with her partner's health. And she's just had to organize a whole bunch of things, but she is also retired. And she wrote that she was determined not to let her days slip by. I'm quoting her now. She says, "I wanted structure to replace the high pressure job I was leaving, blocking out time for the things I've been looking forward to, like volunteering for kids in foster care, home projects, travel, and getting more movement in my days." And then she went through this health crisis with her partner and has had to be a major supporter for him. He is doing better, it sounds like, but it has been a lot. She tried so many planners to see what worked, but then she writes that she has found a system that brings her so much joy and so much peace, and she fills them in each morning over coffee outside on the deck in her small backyard in coastal California. So that sounds so lovely. All right, so here is her stack. Everything in my current stack, she says, is Hobonichi. So you can tell why I really like this submission. She says, I love the paper with fountain pens, and having multiple planners means I get to enjoy multiple covers, which I love. First, I have my noticing journal. I use an Avec original in A6 size, so this is pretty small. She writes, this is where I start each morning. I note the weather, what's going on in the backyard, like birds, flowers, and sky, and I journal my ta-da, so her accomplishments from the day before. She also writes out a quote and does a quick 2-minute sketch of the Merlin app's bird of the day. She's been matching her ink color to the monthly theme, which has been fun. Then she has her media journal, and for that, she's been using a Hobonichi Weeks. She writes the monthly views hold quotes. The weekly left side is split into 3 columns: books, podcasts, YouTube, courses, and TV. And the right side just gets a bit of washi tape and a short note about anything I particularly enjoyed or want to remember. In the blank back pages, she puts books she's read, TBR lists, and other lists for anything she's interested in at the moment related to media. Then she has a health journal, also in a Hobonichi Weeks. The little yearly calendar page tracks medications, so you can see exactly which medication she's taken and her compliance and consistency with that. She has her monthly view showing sleep data that she gets from her Oura Ring. She likes to write it down as it helps her to remember to look at it and notice trends. And the weekly view tracks her Apple Watch, move, stand, and exercise goals, plus a casual food log. No calories or macros, just a quick record of what I ate so she can count up vegetables and phytonutrients. She writes both the Oura and Apple Watch tracking are motivating, but I don't stress over the data. Then for her planner, she uses an Avec Original, so a small daily planner paired with a weekly A6 booklet. That's like a really tiny compact booklet with little tiny calendars. And she says the weekly pages work much like you've described your own process. So meaning my weekly pages, I have all my appointments there, pretty much all of my weekly tasks. And then her daily pages hold her dinner plan, walk reminders, appointments, and any other to-dos that she may want to do that day. She says, I don't stress over not doing things, and I like to move things forward if I don't do them, either into the weekly view or the next day. And then finally, she has a goals planner. She says, I've used various tools for annual, seasonal, and monthly goals, and this year I'm using Cultivate What Matters. Last year, she used Moxie Life, and then she kindly wrote, if you publish your own goals planner, I'd be first in line. Finally, she says, on the digital side, she uses Google and Apple calendars and the Apple Mail app. She shares one with her husband, has a personal one, and then has stuff that comes from various online programs. So they all integrate, it sounds like, into one digital calendar. She uses the Reminders app for recurring things like birthdays, and she likes having those digital, but really enjoys the ritual of doing the planning on paper. Thank you so much, Lauren, for sending this beautiful planner piece submission in. I love the multi-books, but it sounds like you're really enjoying using them and making them all work for you. And of course, the fact that they are all Hobonichi is definitely very similar to my aesthetic preferences. Not saying this is the right way whatsoever, but I just got really excited reading this submission. All right, we're going to get into our first question. And this one comes in from the UK, and the listener is named Kate. And she writes that, she's always used a paper diary with a planner. She uses a small A6 size for each calendar year that has a weekly layout on the left side where she puts all the events that affect her. So it's like a calendar. And then she has a weekly to-do list on the right. And then she also uses Google Keep for some lists, like a shared supermarket list with her husband, and a Google Calendar so they have their schedules on the go. Her issue, she says, she writes, I tend to have a running list in my head of things I want to research or buy. Right now, I'm trying to find home workout equipment, buy some summer clothes for me and my children, and I probably have 50 tabs open on my phone, but I can't seem to make a decision. I happily open these tabs feeling confident each is a potential option, get overwhelmed, and never go back to choose. Other items on my list include new socks for me and the kids, a beach bag for our next holiday, etc. I end up putting it off because I worry they won't have the right thing, but I don't have the focused time to order online, so it's quite a cycle. How can I use planning to consolidate these tabs and convert them into doable actions? She says, I've tried a list in Google Keep of the items, but something like socks is so different than something like a rowing machine that she forgets to look at it. All right, she says, finally on her last line, should I list the items in my weekly to-do? Yes, Kate, this is exactly where nested goal setting, I think, would really, really help you. And I'm not saying you have to adopt my entire system, but let's say you do, it sounds like in Google Keep, already have this dump list of like a million things that you want to buy. But every week you can select a few things. I mean, don't overwhelm yourself. I think that's part of the problem here, but you select a few things for that week and you put it in your weekly task list. It sounds like you have a great place for that on the right-hand side of your planner. Then each day, as you go to plan the day, and you didn't mention a daily planning ritual, but if you don't have one, I highly recommend at least taking the time in the morning to just decide what you're going to focus on in that given day and create a smaller list. And you can choose one or two items maybe from that weekly list to tackle. Now, if you're having such a kind of decision fatigue barrier where you're like, ruminating too much over different options, it sounds like you might identify as a maximizer. So someone who wants things to be done the best possible versus a satisficer who's just happy to kind of get it done in any way, shape, or form. I happen to be a satisficer. Maximizers can struggle with these things. So I would ask yourself whether maybe some of these could be made simpler. But I would say if something is getting urgent and you're struggling to do it, maybe you just decide to calendar it out right. So it goes into your electronic calendar if you're using Google Calendar, and on 9 a.m. it just says buy socks. Maybe you make it a little bit funny, like buy socks within this 15 minutes, do not dilly-dally, buy them at a store, buy them online, I don't care, but socks have to be ordered. And then you just do not let yourself move from that particular time slot without buying socks. Now, I know in reality, things can be a little bit harder than they sound when I say them, but I really think this is one where it sounds like you are overwhelming yourself with too many options for what to do. And perhaps you can use time to kind of pull out just a few at a time so that maybe your day's task is to just do one thing, which seems a lot more manageable than looking at the 100 or so tabs. So I hope this helps. And listeners, if you struggle with Kate's similar dilemma, please let me know what has helped you. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with a couple more listener questions. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Green Chef. In my opinion, the best nutrition strategy is to make the healthy options easy. It's one thing to have elaborate plans to follow health trends, but it's another thing entirely to have healthy food on hand, ready to go, that already meets your nutritional goals. Green Chef is a fantastic way to make your healthy lifestyle easy. With Green Chef, every week you get over 40 recipes made with organic produce, responsibly sourced proteins, and no ingredients you can't pronounce. They have meals that come pre-portioned and are ready in minutes. And if you want extra nutrition guidance, they include free, unlimited one-on-one coaching that helps you stay on track. Green Chef is also the only certified clean meal kit as tested by the Clean Label Project, and the most sustainable meal kit with 20% less food waste and 100% offset delivery emissions. I love it when we have a Green Chef week at our house. It means that healthy and delicious meals are just ready to go. No additional mental load required. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months. That's code 50bestlaid at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. Today's episode is brought to you with support from IXL, a learning platform that helps support kids in all settings, including homeschool. Summer is such a great opportunity to reinforce important skills and help kids stay confident before the next school year begins. IXL helps homeschool families, as well as kids in traditional school, to maintain steady progress without feeling rigid or overwhelming. We've used it for years during the summer to help keep skills fresh for the next academic level. Everything at IXL is organized by grade and subject, so you can quickly find what each child needs without juggling multiple resources. Whether reviewing earlier concepts, staying sharp in summer, or tackling new material, IXL adapts to each child's pace with no pressure. And it's really designed well to keep kids engaged with celebrations, awards, and visible progress markers. I know this summer, my 8-year-old is excited to start her IXL pathway to 3rd grade. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. Best Laid Plans listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/plans. Visit IXL.com/plans to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come step into centuries of history that await in Scotland. Castles steeped in legend walk along cobblestone streets. Come share the warmth of stories passed down through generations. This is a place with a past that is fully present today and all yours to explore. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
All right, this one comes from a listener who just finished reading my book, and she writes, I have been planning since the 4th grade when we started writing our assignments in steno books. Currently, I hybrid plan with Google Calendar and a Sterling Ink Common Planner A6 size. I also use Todoist for tasks. My main problem is that I want to track my routines. A lot of my goals involve changing my routine and being consistent on my routine. I'd like to track each day with what steps I complete, so at my monthly closeout, she does note that she is Flossy Faye on TikTok, if anybody wants to check out her monthly closeout, then she can see what percentage I completed each item and strive each month to make that better. She says, where do you recommend tracking these routine steps? There's not enough lines in the quarterly section in her paper planner, and she's thinking, as she describes this, perhaps more of a spreadsheet. So yes, a spreadsheet would be a great idea. My good friend Kay loves to track her habits in a Google Sheet. I'll see if I can link to a blog post that she's done on this because she is a master of having little tiny check boxes for her habits for each day. And you can very easily see how many wins you've had over the course of a month. I also think a monthly spread can be a really fun way to track various steps or various tasks that you're trying to fit in or habits that are part of what you call, what word did you use, routines. So for example, I have a monthly spread where I track workouts. I've shown images of it before on my website, but I'll include one in these show notes. And I'll have just a dot on the calendar square that's like red for strength training or orange for a walk or yellow for yoga, etc. And then at the end of the month, you can like really look very easily and count how many red dots, how many orange dots, how many yellow. And this is a way that you can keep track of a number of things without taking up a lot of calendar real estate and be able to see it really nicely in a fun visual way. If you didn't want to use dots, you could also use stickers or different symbols or things like that. I also know that you don't use a Hobonichi planner, but the annual spread of the Hobonichi planner is awesome for daily kind of like task tracking because it has space for basically 10 little tiny boxes for every day. You could make your own using graph paper, so I'll show a picture of that in the show notes as well. And then finally, there's a number of apps that are dedicated specifically to tracking little steps and little routines. I know there's one called Streaks that people like, and I know there are probably others. So if you have a favorite habit tracking app, then please let me know. Oh, Structure is another one where you can check off little things. All right, so I hope this helps. And if you want images of what I'm talking about, I will share those in the show notes, as well as a link to my friend Kay's page. All right, next we have a source of truth question from a listener named Kate. Kate says, I am enjoying your book, and I had a question about planning in one place after reading the section on Master Calendar. She says, here's my context for my question. We're currently using the Essential Calendar as our family calendar, and we love seeing the big picture view. It's theoretically my single source of truth, but only theoretically. There are a couple of reasons for that, and several of them are me problems, forgetting to write things on it, also having a different year calendar that I carry around and sometimes write on instead. But one of them is about family stuff. My family, including my husband, can't write small enough to put things on the calendar. It's not a big deal that my kids can't add to it yet, but it is a problem my husband can't add his evening work meetings, hobby meetups, etc. It leaves me as the linchpin for getting everything on the calendar. Okay, so I love the Essential Calendar and we are currently using it. I love it to be able to see when we're on vacation and who's on call and all kinds of big picture things like how much is there left in the school year. The kids love to refer to it, especially to be like, how long till we go on this trip or how long till we do this thing I'm looking forward to. But I think it's probably not the ideal family master calendar just because the boxes are really small and you're going to run into the issue that you have. I feel like it would get so full, it might be a little bit dizzying. So you also asked if I had any episodes about strategies that lead to partners' engagement. There is a chapter in the book that you're going to get to later on that talks about this a lot, but I definitely would have a conversation with your partner because the first thing you need is some buy-in. Like, do they think that it would be helpful for everyone to have a place to refer to what is going on? My guess is that most people would say yes. And then it's always good to ask for, well, what do you think we should do for that? Should we do a shared Google Calendar? Do we feel like we need to project something up showing our digital events? Like maybe we use something like Skylight, which will allow you to import events from Google Calendar, or just a screen showing Google Calendar up on the wall. Or maybe you go a little bit more analog like we do. And even if you use a shared Google Calendar together for family sharing purposes, you could use something like a whiteboard that's a bit bigger than Essential Calendar. We find the weekly level to be good enough for that. We plan each week together and people actually are compelled to put their stuff on the calendar by Sunday because we talk through it all at Sunday dinner and try to make sure it all actually works. And so, yeah, I mean, there are just so many different solutions, but I think the biggest part is for everyone to have buy-in and to craft some rituals around how this calendaring and sharing is going to happen rather than necessarily focusing on the tools themselves. So yeah, definitely having a conversation, having buy-in and a discussion about the tools that will work for each person. And then I always say it's best to have a written component of some kind, whether that's a whiteboard or a digital source, and some kind of discussion that has its own time slot. So hopefully with that, you will be able to put together a system that works for you. All right, well, that is all the Q&A that were accumulated in my inbox for the month of June so far, but the month is young, so please get your questions in, and of course, they can make it into a future episode, perhaps later this month or in July. I would also love to hear your thoughts on topics that you think I should cover this summer. I'm always open to suggestions. I get some great ideas from you guys, and I am open to more. So just a reminder, you can find all of the show notes at theshoebox.com, my super old school blog and website and place where you can find course information, links to all the old episodes, and lots of resources. It's theshubox.com. And be sure that you're subscribed to my monthly newsletter. It only comes out once a month, so I never bombard your inbox, but it's the way that you kind of keep up with what's happening with the podcast, maybe any exciting planner news, and I try to include some kind of useful strategy or idea for the readers as well. All right, well, this has been a fun Q&A episode as we kind of head into summer, and I will be back in your feed next Monday. Thank you so much for listening.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.